So we live, cameras rolling, everything good, right? Peace and love, everybody. You know, we here with the brother Travon Jackson, Blue Light.
Yes, sir.
Development, right?
Yes, sir.
Blue Light Development Company is a brother in the community. His partner's here too. He wants to stay, you know, low key, but not the brother right there. He's smooth like me. He don't like the camera like me, but sometimes we gotta do what we gotta do. So yeah, we have the brother Travon here. You know, we met a couple years ago. You know, and he was in a position where he was working with another individual that was developing and doing things. So I saw Travon, you know, different. We keep passing each other. So when we pass each other, that's different signs for me to say that in the day we're working together simultaneously into making our communities better. And the Community Solution show is about making our communities better and adding value to our community. So I want to tell you thank you for coming in. And I want the people, if they don't know you, I want them to get to know what you're doing and your stance in the community.
Yeah.
You know, so I know last week I came through your building, the African American Cultural Center, or is this African Cultural Center?
The African American Cultural Center.
African American Cultural Center. I went through. It's a beautiful building, beautiful setup, which was a key bank before. But he can explain a little bit more to you. But I saw you got a nice setup down there. There was a vent down there. It was nice. So yeah, introduce yourself a little bit more.
Absolutely. So my name is Travon Jackson. I'm president of Blue Light Development Group. We're a nonprofit development consultant who provides services to charities in the capital region. And I also have the honor of serving as executive director of the African American Cultural Center of the capital region. So the work that we do, as you said, has been concentrated in creating safe, accessible space for Black people and people of color. That is mission number one. And in service of that is my background. I formerly worked in investment banking in Chicago after going on to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, to get my degrees. And I studied economics and urban planning. And originally I was going to study architecture, but yeah, that didn't go that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But that's a background that I took into business and very quickly saw, at the birth of a lot of the movements that we're talking about, that there obviously is not safe space for people of color and high finance. And despite all that I learned and the experience that I had, that wasn't the person I was trying to be. So I left that position, came back, and shortly after is when we met. And all the while, I launched Blue Light in 2016. And prior to that, had been a volunteer with the African American Cultural Center, which opened in 2012. And where we are located is before the Key Bank that a lot of people know.
Straight up the Greyhound. So if you're on the highway right there, Albany, that's pretty much the cornerstone in Albany. Yeah. So that's a great location that you at. And that building was a Key Bank for a while. I remember actually when it was a Key Bank years back. And right now in the community is needed for a cultural center. We had a show the other day, last Saturday, where they put together a moving African American art museum. Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with the brother that did that. Yeah. I actually directed them over to you as well and say, we need to move to this location because this type of arts, this type of mental state need to be in our community, and we need to change the mindset of our people. We have to be brilliant people, but at the same time, we're hurting because a lot of times we don't own anything. We don't feel like we have a home to say, all right, this is our home, this is our space. So when I came to the art center, when you showed me, I felt this was my home. Yeah. And you also said, all right, you could get a space there. You could, I felt welcome there at the space. So I'm like, this is good. And I also brought some community members that's in that area to the building to the show. Right, this is what we can do in this one because I believe that us together, united, is unstoppable.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, being together is the key. I feel blessed, and I'm so proud to say that there are so many people that we have already worked in Albany who have already had space, or had the opportunity to have space, or work with, or take up the space they deserve, period, in this country. Right? That's something that we should have as our people with our history. Absolutely. And I think that's beautiful when you look at that building, being built around 1860. There was a lot of things, various businesses, an old photo finisher, developer, and ultimately, when it was left in a condition that wasn't suitable. So after investing and putting those resources in, donating the time, putting in the sweat equity and the capital, putting together resources, working with teams, and having people who chose to take the leap to come and share that space, we made so much progress. And it definitely hits my heart with what's happened with COVID and Corona, and definitely the restrictions and some of the damage that may have been done to the traction that was made. But I also look at it favorably because with that track record and the experience before, a lot of individuals had to or already were set up to be more entrepreneurial themselves, right, and now build their own individual enterprise, which I think is even more substantial. So I take the blessings as they come.
Yeah, because right now you see people doing everything. Excuse me, one second. The green light is on for the mic, right? me double check to see some more reviews on.
No.
Alright. But the sound for this is on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So we live, yeah. So Blue Light Development Company is here to empower our communities, correct?
Yeah.
And to put a safe space in our communities to help develop our communities and to help, with the mission to because I see Black Wall Street all over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a different mindset of us now that's coming up because we kind of like we with it. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of times they wasn't with it back then. It's like whatever the case, but we with it. We like, all right, cool, we here now. We learning stocks now. We learning investments. We learning forex. We learning development. We learning the game that they try to hide from us now a long time ago. So now it's like you in the light where a young entrepreneur like my son could see you and say, wow, I could be in a position to do this, right? I mean, to get to that, you guys just bought a McDonald's, correct?
Yeah.
And you're gonna turn McDonald's into a grocery spot, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
In that area, so that's a beautiful thing too. Actually, we're gonna do a day in the life of the entrepreneur as well. So you're gonna be seeing us documenting the area that they're in, the space that they're in, and pretty much it's gonna bring some empowerment to our community, our people. Yeah. So it's funny too because it's a big development company came through here a few minutes ago, and they said I told them what we do. We empower community with our visuals, and I said, matter of fact, we have another partner that's in the area that's doing a McDonald's downtown. I guess they call Redburn. They're buying everything in Albany. Big development company buying most everything in Albany. So when I mentioned your name, it was like he kind of like, yeah, I think they're trying to get it or something like that. It was like kind of like, and I felt some way like, no, hold on. Nah, They're getting the building. So I want to ask you about that. Like, you got the building, you getting the building, what's going on?
Yeah, we're under contract for the building with cash that's already exchanged hands and a closing date in July.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. So anybody who's gone through the process of buying property, knows what that means, what part of the process that's in, and obviously knows how a third-party developer had any purview on what was going on, unless they were in contact with someone who does. And they happen to work very closely with the city, who has an on-again, off-again relationship with supporting the blackness that we cherish so deeply. So I'm sure it's not always in his best interest to show us love, although we're clearly on his radar.
Right. So that's good. So that's a good thing, and that's important to see for young people in that community that's predominantly African American, Black and brown individuals in that community, Spanish, Latino, minorities in that community. So when they see another development that does something to the community, that does something to the mindset, because that's what we're about, changing the mindset. That does something for all of us. Say, wow, these brothers is doing this. Oh no, now we have something we could call our own. Yeah. I'm saying we're not saying now the money is generating inside of the Black community because they said $1.4 trillion goes out of the community annually, right? In 6 minutes or something like that. I think it's like 6 minutes for African Americans. Like, I don't know the specifics, but I think our money goes out of the community faster than any other culture. Yeah. Period. So now with that, it's saying congratulations for I salute you for being a part of changing the mindset of our people. Being that image that we need to see.
I appreciate
coming
that.
up.
I really do. Yeah. And for me, it's so deep into that. And even go into that, and even on behalf of the city or anything else. That type of autonomy, like that type of agency, that type of blackness, is counter to everything that these institutions have been created for and often still work in pursuit of. So no matter what the case may be, we need to accept that some of the things we're doing are revolutionary.
Absolutely.
And that they have been fought for, they have been died for, and in many respects we still do not have. So I'm very passionate about standing on that as a foundation, working with anyone, providing space for anyone, and also understanding that doesn't mean agreeing with everyone's methods. Because what comes with education and doing work comes with an acknowledgement of your level of ignorance, another person's level of ignorance, and how that tailors your skills to be best suited for specific jobs. And my motto is I shut up when someone else is the expert.
Everybody can't do everything, right?
Everybody can't do everything. Right. And you have to
Yes, sir. Yo, shout out to the brother. Yes, sir.
Listen, and I don't even like being on. I don't get on cameras. I don't like being on cameras or anything. But for me,
I have to. Sometimes we have to.
Yeah, and I have a respect for authenticity. Right, like I came to you today how I was when I was working.
Yeah.
I came to you in your space because I understand where you're connected and I understand how I've connected with you before, and I have opportunity to communicate in a different way that I value. Right, these channels don't exist when we're talking about business at a high level, where you're talking about working against institutions. We don't get to be this direct and loving with our people in a way that we understand. So I appreciate you for that.
Absolutely, no doubt. I'm just a platform. You know, if I could put us down, because I said we the best people. You know, my saying is they got Wall Street, we got all streets globally because we connected. You know what I'm saying? We connected. We connected. Like we got family across the world, and more down everywhere. We connect, but we so divided that that the systems put together because I strongly believe that if we was to be empowered over, we share too much. So sometimes when we get empowered, we share too much with the wrong people. So they take from us, and then we get shut out. But if we connect together, then we can see it. Oh, this brother, like you said, everybody has to be a part. Everybody has to be at their own station, master their own craft, and together we coming together the Voltron, right?
Yeah.
So it's like so much violence is going on because we don't own anything. Nobody can feel like no one feels like this is my territory. It's territory, but it's like we don't own anything. Right? And versus that, because even myself, I own two properties, right? Yeah, so now I think right? Before I jump out the window, I can't lose what I got right here, right? I can't jump out the window and lose what I earned here because this is for future generations coming up, right? Yeah. So to say, all right, if you give a person something, you put them in position, it's like they're gonna take care of that. Right? No one's gonna be outside. Your neighbor's gonna be clean. Not gonna be sitting outside, throwing trash on the corner. Right. No, we own this now, so we have to pay the guard. So now it's more responsibility. So I think we need to somehow reverse that mindset where it's saying, right, this is everyone else. So we have to take ownership and say, oh, this is our community. Yeah. We was born here. We wasn't born in Africa. We was born in America. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we African in America, but we have to. We in position. We pay tax. We lost blood, sweat, tears, family members. Been here, we need to own this.
We fought for this. And but that accountability has to start with yourself, and not in the sense of I'm on trial for whatever people perceive mistakes to be. Right. But accountability in that you're being honest about what you need to do to better strategize, what you need to do to better prepare for the people and places that are coming after you. You know, with respect to myself, I consider myself a young brother. I have a lot to learn.
Absolutely.
We all do. Today is a cross-section of an infinite amount of time where as long as God allows me to be on this earth, I'll be learning, right? That's all that is. But for today, I can speak on what I know today. And that's why I appreciated you saying I go off top. And when I speak or I have any engagement or something with the public, I do the same thing. Because I believe in those moments, I can only speak to what I know already. Right. And I should not be creating and searching things on the spot to fill a conversation. And if I need to have a moment of peace where I'm quiet, to collect how I feel about something, I need to be accountable to myself to allow that space, right? To use my brain, right? It's easier to use my mouth and talk quickly as opposed to give myself pause to use my mind and see how I actually feel about something. That's important. So that'll lead into that next piece. Because then you got to look at yourself because you're going to know. Because you might can see somebody around the way today, the other day, next time you run into them, but you're with you all the time.
Absolutely. You got to go to sleep, wake up with you. Absolutely. So what would be your because I know sometimes we talk about the problems a lot, right? We talk about, right, we got this in our community, we got poverty, we got drugs, we got what would be your topic and your solution to what's going on? I know you got development, right? What would be if you could pick up an issue and then say, all right, my solution to this issue would be.
Well, I'll give you this premise. If I'm picking and choosing that way, I'm going to pick the thing that's closest to people dying. And right now that seems to be police. So, in the abstract, the problem is that police in this country were formed to catch and brutalize slaves, enslaved people. That's the greater problem. And from that, all of our treatment and existence in this country stems. And there are people, some of these are the solution, who I've spent decades doing the work to research and put together this information and fight, and still want to fight today. Who can speak to that in even higher regard? Because it's emotional. Because I personally grew up a certain kind of way in a certain kind of place in South Troy, right from Western County Jail, where I can't watch one of the people I consider to share a culture with be beat or brutalized by a police officer. Right? And like, I respect journalism and documentation, but as a shared people, personally, I don't know that I can hold a camera for any purpose while my brother or sister or person of any gender was being brutalized by police. Right?
I feel like I would do that.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
Right? So if we're talking life or death, not even just when we run across them randomly, but when they're directly confronting, I think the solution needs to be embracing those people who already have those decades in. I have immense respect for Dr. Alice Green. I have immense respect for Ms. Barbara Howard, and just being willing to work where it's not only best suited, but where it keeps Black people the safest. And that doesn't mean avoiding confrontation. That means putting the right people in line of confrontation. That means if we're having protests, if we know we're going to interact with police, and this is obvious to anybody like that grew up in the street or ran in the streets in any kind of serious way. If you knew you were going to interact with police, you moved a certain way. You sent certain guys home. You didn't do certain things. So if we're going to be in the streets, all streets, globally, we have to move with that awareness of the streets.
Absolutely.
Because I personally cannot be comfortable in any occupation or trade on my own behalf, watching and observing the abuse of Black people.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think the creator, I've never been in that position where it's like, we got crazy like in the beats. But I don't know what I would do in that position, you know what I'm saying? And I watching it's hurtful. It's hurtful.
And it's
like me in that position. Like,
but it even still happens. The trauma still happens, though. You still go through it, and all those times you may have had to dodge the police. It was just happening to you. You were the one looking at yourself. You were the one deciding if you were going to show up for yourself. And it's that, just in respect for your own experience, like, however it happens, that's a reality that we're facing. So I appreciate and respect that, and I embrace our people.
Varying viewpoints, but just the resonance of not being comfortable with seeing that.
And not for nothing, too, it is a good thing that they are being televised now, because now they're actually seeing, like, this is what y'all doing.
It's
right?
traumatizing.
So for people that's out there, this is what's really going on, because before we didn't have that. So now that whoever is able to catch that footage, like they caught footage the other day, I'm like, wow, I want TV, like, hitting me, like, it feeling like that's my sister getting hit, you know what I'm saying?
Yo, because
hitting people, I'm just like, wow.
If you were there, that you're like,
right,
nah,
this is
like,
crazy.
I'd be doing something else. Yeah.
I saw the brother, Youth FX and was down there, he caught some good footage, and I'm just like, wow, like, this is vivid. Yeah. But that could be the thing to change the new laws, right? That could be that Alice Green was down like, wow, this is documented.
But exactly like you say, she shows up.
Right.
She shows up in the streets and demands those answers, and was walking in front of the barricade. And, in some respects, I saw a lot of her walking by herself, which you speak however about, I personally, that's not how
security, right?
But, in whatever respect, her existing on her own, as her own woman, on her own too, I respect that as well. I'm not going to diminish her for standing out there on her own too. But that's what I mean about embracing all perspectives, right? I'm not going to demean or diminish, especially my own people.
But a lot of times too, we dealing with too, it's a lot of mental health in our areas too. So people don't know how to communicate. A lot of times, our weakest part of us is communication as a people, right? Because we never went to. A lot of us haven't went to school for that. You articulate yourself well, you know what I'm saying? And I admire that, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of people haven't really been in environments where they could really speak to people
and I wanted
and be patient and really, you know what I'm saying?
Best point. No, that's a great point, because something I've always said, both to my brother that's here and anybody else, and this relates a lot to moving in white spaces as well. Because like you said, the other development companies that came in, obviously they're white, and a lot of high-level business in this country is white for obvious reasons. So when you move in those spaces, I encounter that same concept for myself, and I believe it, because they'll treat me as an example. And I don't like it, and I also don't like emulation, because I was blessed with a certain amount of things when I came into this earth. I will never pretend to sit here and act like everything I am I created out of thin air myself, life experience or otherwise. There are things, and I believe it's with every person, there are things you're innately born with, that your skill, your tendency, your talent, and nobody can take that from you.
Absolutely.
So I believe it's unfair for me to expect other brothers and sisters of their own trauma, of their own background, to do the exact same things as me. I don't believe in that. So I think from that concept is where I end up, which is you got to communicate with love always.
Absolutely.
Always.
Absolutely. Compassion. Right.
If you empathy, if you really like true, like, and even if you disagree, even if you don't like, look, if we go to the city, these larger developers, I empathize with them. If my balance sheet was the biggest it's ever been in life because of tax credits that discount the value on a cash balance that I know won't support all these projects if not for all this public support, I'd be stressed too.
Absolutely.
This is a high leverage point for your business and your investors. And for the sake of the city, I wish you all success. But you know this is as high risk as anybody else's, if not the most right now. Because like you said in the beginning, buying up so many things, so many notable properties. So as long as we're not being disingenuous, I can empathize with anybody.
And that's it. So even as far as that, you know, the educational part, right? Because I think that's a big factor too. Education, right? That's what we should push, right? So do you do any like mentoring with the young people where they could show them how to, or even old people, how they could start to finish, how they could be their own development, how they could be their own, you know, how to.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that question because it makes me think of a lot of people that I'm really fond of, especially young people. So we've always had like an intern program. So through the city's summer youth employment program, I was in the program for Rensselaer County on the Troy side before. You know, they give the kids jobs in the summer. We've had numerous interns through that program, young people that go to schools in Albany neighborhoods. We have a current internship program right now with Troy High School.
What's the ages?
The ages are, I mean, it's flexible really, because when I went to O'Neill, that was, some of them are sophomores, freshmen, essentially anywhere from like 13 to 18, really like anywhere in that range. Because if you're younger than that, you're probably participating in like our public programs anyway. In terms of our youth arts programs, we work with the brother James Mitchell at Young Futures. So arts classes and things like that where you'd already be in our programming. But specifically to your question of like building a business and being at that stage and for that conversation, yeah, the youth level is typically through internship. And then other folks who are entrepreneurs or working in the space, we build connections where they're real. So if ever anybody, that's why, not for nothing, you and your son is an example. Before I even knew your son was your son, he was down selling waters and things like that at our Juneteenth.
Air fresheners and
whatever. And it was, we were so happy because, and I remember we were standing there looking, it was so hot. We was like, yo, this young brother is hustling. And then we were standing there, he's like, yo, someone needs to get him a chair. And we just felt ourselves getting like, yo, like that, like we gotta protect that brother. So like that was the thing. And then even for you, like there was one, I remember there was
now
one
you're
year,
selling books. Make sure you buy his book.
Buy the books
now.
Support the brother. Absolutely.
School districts near you. I'll start now. Successful.youth.com.
Absolutely. But it's important to share these stories so people like know what's actually real. It's not just the examples we speak of because we read it somewhere. Like I remember there was a Black Fest where you came and you were taking pictures, and this was earlier on in us being familiar, and you were like, yo, I'm taking pictures of people, I could print them. I was like, yo, this is a brother, he's hustling. Yo, print them from right here.
You
do it right here.
Up. Yeah, that's a fact.
And a lot of those got printed out, a lot of those got done, and I felt really good. I felt really good about that.
I appreciate that.
That's the type of energy that we're on and how we move. And like I said, we've already worked with so many people who, you know, either have their own space now or doing their own thing, or may not have to work with us again, whatever the case may be. But we're open to building any connection where it's real. And if ever anybody wants to reach out directly, either through any of our pages, points of contact, we always welcome that.
Tell them where to find you at the website.
So you can find us at bluelightdevelopment.org. You could also email me at tjackson@bluelightdevelopment.org or call me 518-279-6554. All of those will reach me directly. And for anyone who wants to just come down, pull up 135 South Pearl Street, just ring the bell. We got a video bell. Obviously, COVID restrictions and safety are in place, but for any private tours, walkthroughs, you know, just like happened with you, and you saw like the events that were happening there, the space we're creating for people. after COVID. I think we're running at 50% of that now, maybe. But with our building, we've been much more conservative. We only do the first 2 floors and max somewhere 30 to 50, like the size of the event that you saw.
Okay, that's good enough.
And then, but we have our outdoor space, which is larger, the outdoor area.
Outdoor
with the garden,
nice
the
too.
pond.
They got the frogs and a little pond and
Yeah, the
everything. It
turtles
was
and
nice. So
everything.
I'm looking like, all right. Like,
And we got the couple umbrellas, the cabanas with the lights and everything.
Yeah, that's nice. That
so
was
we can set up some tables out there.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah,
we could do a whole thing outside too, and that would hold much more people. Like you could easily do 50 to 100 out there, and people could be spaced out.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna like I said, I wanna do something within a month or so. Is that cool with you guys?
Yeah. We're coming right up on Juneteenth. Yeah. We're doing some soft opening outreach stuff to the public in the month of May as it is, just to prepare and grease the wheels for reopening to the public.
And then the Juneteenth event too. It was a good event downtown. The vendors was outside.
Yes.
I was upset because it seemed like, not upset, but I was like confused because it seemed like it was such a small space. Like they didn't give y'all more area.
Yeah. So. That's another point to the on again, off again relationship between the city and Blackness. So, Juneteenth in Albany has been celebrated officially in some form or respect for the last 18 to 19 years. We're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the celebrations. Initially, it was a group of local activists, political figures, in consult with the city, saying this needs to be had, and then the city hosted it. And then when the African American Cultural Center was created, the same individual says, well, if we're going to have Juneteenth, it makes sense for this organization to be part of it. And many of them were founding members and creators and board members, so that synergy was obvious. They operated together. Many are familiar in Washington Park for a few years there. And slowly over time, the capacity became challenged because the support from the city is not consistent, and it became a conversation of the center handling it on its own. And there was a middle period there where that happened in the early aughts, and then about the last 4 or 5 years, we made the conscious decision to move it down to South Pro because we felt like that's where our building is, that's where the neighborhood is, that's where our people of color are at and are being oppressed and struggling. And based on all the events we've seen of the last 2 weeks and over the entire span of police reform and other activities, obviously that's the case.
It's a high risk over there. It's a lot of
high risk area.
It's a high risk area. Yeah.
And the families that are there, it's a red zone. And the families that are there, they value that and cherish that too. You know, not everybody can make it up the hill to go to Washington Park for whatever the case may be. So we felt like that was a good thing to do for the neighborhood. With that comes some friction because we're reclaiming space in a neighborhood that hasn't been invested in, is ripe for development, particularly when you look at the parking lot neighborhood that the city is currently working to get under eminent domain. They also wanted to include the McDonald's parcel in that plan, in that redevelopment, and it didn't come to pass because it's not part of the same area. There's a highway between them.
Right.
They're
it is, clearly,
there's different things.
Right,
but those are all things that impact those decisions. So we went to the city 3-4 years ago, special events in partnership with the Capital Region, Capital District YMCA's. Orville Abrahams works for the state now, another good brother. And we went to get the entire street closed. And they said, no, we can't. It's a commercial truck route. First of all, that's a problem. This is a residential neighborhood.
Right.
So using truck routes as a justification not to have a celebration of freedom
dangerous,
is already redundant.
Right. That's dangerous.
It's dangerous. And we talk about that with the environmental justice efforts that are going on right now. So that's an ongoing conversation too. So we said, okay, we'll just do the celebration how we can. We'll do it with vendors lying down the street, deep from our building all the way down to Rooted in our yard. And last year when we did it, in the midst of COVID, in partnership with the county Black Caucus, and the executive departments, we ended up having 3,000 people stop by safely. No COVID flare-ups, no test incidents, no blow-ups, no anything. Right? So now the conversation just becomes, are you going to close the street? We've started that dialogue again. We haven't heard definitive traction on that yet, but meetings are forthcoming where we're here.
So should we reach out to the Common Council for that, or who's
I'm not sure.
Right networks to reach out to, because I know people watching, whoever's watching, could maybe help us out and assist in that, and unifying and putting some vendor, because it was nice vendors out there.
It's a beautiful event. We promote Black and brown entrepreneurs, but like I said, I'm not one to be disingenuous. So the Common Council and the mayor were both at Juneteenth last year to present official proclamations and resolutions of the center, Blue Light, Rooted, the Coliseum, the businesses on that corridor as official providers of Juneteenth, recognizing the celebration, and got their fair amount of stage time. So I say that to say, if you're going to reach out to those people, don't pretend it's the first day, right? And this has been brought up multiple years in the past. So I did, above anything, like to tell everybody clearly, as long as I'm in a position and I'm blessed to stand where I stand and make the decisions I make about a Juneteenth celebration, nothing is going to stop the celebration of freedom for our people in this country. And if we have to close down a street out of pure necessity and safety because others will not deem it so in advance, then that is what we will do. But our priority, first and foremost, is safety, and especially safety of our people whose freedom we're celebrating in the first place. So I don't endorse ideas of requesting permission to celebrate freedom.
Will you be able to do it in the parking lot, the McDonald's parking lot?
Why do you think I referenced some on-again, off-again friction?
Okay.
That throws wrenches. It throws wrenches in plans and decisions when you acquire more property. And you're able to do things on a larger scale than you would have otherwise had to ask permission for.
Right. Gotcha. Awesome. Okay. So it's happening. So so pretty much the Juneteenth event is the 12th.
Oh, the 19th.
The 19th
yeah,
of June.
Saturday the 19th.
Saturday, okay, because they also had something on Central Avenue last year. They did Chuck and the barbershop Juices Forever.
Yeah, there's on
they
Central.
They shut the block down Central.
Yeah.
Henry Johnson and between Henry Johnson and Lexington, but it was like the little part they had right there.
Yeah, right there. No, and I encourage something else to say. I encourage all neighborhoods and areas of Albany to have a Juneteenth.
We're not doing July 4th no more.
No, we're not. And I say it's because the game and the trick is when it was in Washington Park, that was great, but it also put all the black people in one place. Right. This is freedom. We don't celebrate the 4th of July in one
place, right.
We celebrate the 4th of July in the entire country.
Absolutely.
So if we're celebrating the freedom of our people, I want there to be a Juneteenth in Arbor Hill, in West Hill, in West Albany, in all of those neighborhoods and areas. We're in a position to provide a Juneteenth of our scale in the neighborhood that we serve. And if any way that can serve as a launch board or a spring pad or just a simultaneous existence with another thing in pursuit of that purpose, I support that and I build that up. We should be celebrating Juneteenth everywhere.
Everywhere. I agree. Globally.
Yeah,
they got Wall Street.
Globally.
We got